Greetings to Bonsai Empire and Oscar from a very cold and rainy Oregon. This is our first clear day in 32 days of solid rain. So we're taking advantage of the sun with the filming of your 15th anniversary celebration. We got a question from Nathan Martin. I noticed you work a lot with native tree species, and I wondered, do these react differently to techniques like pruning, wiring, repotting from similar species you worked on in Japan? I think of Sierra juniper, Rocky Mountain juniper, Douglas fir, and redwoods, to name a few. Nathan, yeah, they do react a lot differently. I think the species in Japan formed our foundation for how we started to approach all of our native species that we work with at Bonsai Mirai. And one of the things that I was able to kind of learn during my time in Japan was when you work on a tree to redirect that strength, or when you work on a tree to maximize the impact of building up that strength. And so we've taken that same thought process and applied it to the way that our native species behave. One of the most difficult things that we've realized with our native species is that a lot of them don't behave similar to Japanese species, in particular our junipers, like the Sierra, like the Rocky Mountain juniper. In Japan, with a shimpaku, you can very easily pinch the elongating shoots on the new growth, and the tree will respond with mature foliage and maintain its vigor. On our native North American junipers, if you pinch the new growth, you're taking off all of their new photosynthetic material at a point where they're expending all of that energy to generate that foliage mass, and by removing that you cause a tremendous stress response. And for a long time that was the downfall of Rocky Mountain junipers in terms of people's impression of them as a North American species for bonsai. As far as our pines are concerned, we very much look to the Japanese white pine in terms of training techniques when we start handling our single flush pines like the ponderosa, like the lodgepole, like the limber pine, because we get one solid flush of growth per year. So our pruning or our pinching, whether we're trying to get back budding or we're trying to direct the strength during the spring season, is really closely related to how we handle the Japanese white pine. We do have multi-flush pines like the pitch pine or the Virginia pine that we can handle a lot like the Japanese black pine. So that multi-flush pine work that we did on the Japanese species informs the multi-flush pine work on our native North Americans. As far as our elongating species, such as the redwood or the Douglas fir, where you have this very strong flush of elongating growth, and you've got to learn how to manage that. We've had a lot of mixed results in terms of drawing on the techniques that we use to train, say, the taxus or the yew tree from Japan, or some of the spruce species from Japan. There are similarities in terms of that elongating growth needing to be managed, strength needing to be redirected, but we've also found that sometimes pinching doesn't necessarily give us the same response at that point of the pinch occurring, where we would get a bud on some Japanese species, on our Doug firs, on our Engelmann spruce, and on some of our redwoods. If we don't do that at the correct time of year, we can basically just get a dead branch tip. And so we have derived a lot of our technique from the Japanese species and the Japanese manner and method of training those species as a foundational information to jump off from, and then we've had to advance our knowledge for our North American species to figure out the nuances that allow us to manage that strength and redirect it, or to accumulate that strength and then be able to handle that and push it back into the tree. So I hope that answers your question. It's a very small snippet for a lot of information, but anyways, hopefully that gets you off on the right direction. Thanks a bunch, Oscar. Good luck. Congratulations on 15 years, man. Keep it going.